Lots of bass guitarists, when they read music, it's usually tablature, and guitarists as well, and there are some good reasons for that. It encourages the learning of patterns as opposed to things like where the notes are. But pretty soon, if you're a bass player especially, being able to read music is a real boon, because it enables you to read piano scores, for example, if you're just leaning over somebody's shoulder and you're playing the bass, or if you're playing in a show, or you're doing anything else that requires quick fire sort of sight reading. Tablature can be a bit of a pickle here, because especially if the font size is very small, because numbers, as you can see on the main camera angle here, every single number that you can see on the tablature, which is the bottom row of notes here, there's a line going through each number. So a 3 could be mistaken for an 8, for example, to fairly disastrous results. Also on there, a 0 and an 8 could be misconstrued. You could have all sorts of other problems, and if the font size is very small, you're really in trouble. Indeed, if you're watching this on a phone or a tablet, the font size will be quite small still. However, if you look at the bass clef, even on a tiny device, you'll be able to make out roughly where those notes are, and as the notes climb, the pitch gets higher, so it does make a lot of sense. So let's just pick a note at random. Let's find A here. So it's a 0 or a 5. Okay. So 0 on the second line means a 0 on the second line down from you, the A string, or 5th fret on the E string. They're different sounding and mostly in tune with each other. If you work further up, you get to the position, for example, with the G here, you can play that in 4 places. Actually, you can play the A next to it in 4 places as well. I just haven't bothered with those really higher numbers with the tablature. But as you can see, the G is 0, 5, 10, 15. So it's all multiples of 5. G, G, 5th fret, G at 10th fret, and G at 15th. And that's how it works. And that's the problem when you read one bass clef note that says G. Or where do you put it? Where would I do that? I'll just do an open G. Or, if you're here somewhere and you think, where's a G? And you have to work it out. So working with tablature and bass clef together is a really good idea. If you get a riff that's in tab, most teaching books actually show you both. There's a very good reason for that. It's just so that you can get used to seeing those notes on the traditional bass clef. Now, bass clef has been around for 500 years or something, and it's pretty tried and pretty tested. It's a very good method of reading any music. Now, of course, we haven't dealt with any rhythms here, and that's also the other problem that you find with tablature online, is that very often the rhythms are missing. Because it's more difficult to notate those when you're dealing with a Word document or something. So whenever I write bass riffs out for somebody, if they want tablature, I include rhythmic notation above those numbers, and you will see those in the sort of more advanced books as well. Good books like Brian May guitar solos or something. There'll be tablature and there'll be treble clef. In terms of guitar note reading, which was in treble clef, that's an even more murky area, because arrangers very often just put a guitar chord as 6 notes, one above the other, in treble clef, and actually that's a mess. That's really not helpful at all. It's much easier to use a chord symbol. Just put G minor, and if you must be specific, just put G minor 3rd fret. Any guitarist will know that means there, rather than a G minor at 10th fret, for example. Where you place your note, for example this G, also depends on context and where the next note might be. If it's a G followed by, I don't know, a D. So that's 5, and then crossing over to 5 on the A string to find this one here. So you're looking for the sort of nearest one, because otherwise you might end up going from 5 to 10 unnecessarily. So it's a very good idea to try and work out where, if you work a note out in tablature like F, for example, 3rd fret D string, work out where it is on the A string as well, 8. And pretty much you just get used to those relationships between the strings and getting those notes the same. So there's a brief explanation of tablature. This piece of paper is also at the end of this demonstration. You can see it as a photo. Feel free to take a screenshot for your own reference.